Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to an old man rambling. Laura Southern's been in the news recently. I'm not sure when this is going to go up, so it may be a couple weeks old by the time I put this out on the internets. But those of you who aren't aware, Laura Southern was one of those right-wing Tradwife proponents, really pushing hard the Tradwife scene, that women needed to be humble and submissive to their husbands, need to be good little housewives from like the 1950s. Just do whatever their husband says and be good little housewives, and everything will be fine. She was against divorce. And it turns out that she married a complete and total douchebag, and he treated her like crap. He would lock her out of the house. She'd be crying, calling at her neighbor's house, trying to so she could sleep somewhere at night. And she wound up divorcing him, and she had a little moment where she came out and said, I was wrong about the Tradwife stuff. I will admit that when I saw her little apology video, her saying how awful the Tradwife life was, I had a bit of a moment of schadenfreude. I know I shouldn't. The things she went through, no one should have to go through. But yeah, I did have to chuckle a little bit. That was not a good thing for me to do. It does not speak well of my character. That I would take any joy at the misfortune she had to go through. But given her stances, I couldn't help myself. Still can't, apparently. But the reason I bring this up is because a while ago, before this happened, an old high school buddy of mine posted a video of hers on YouTube, which we got into a discussion about, which I know I shouldn't get into discussions on the internet, but I did it anyway. I tried to do it in good faith. I tried to approach this, I criticized her video, basically saying it was using cherry-picked information, you know, cherry-picked information, lies, you know, whatever. It was just full of misinformation, and it was wrong. And my right-wing high school buddy kind of went off on me. But he went off on a tangent that had nothing to do with the content of the video, which is kind of why we got in the argument. I tried to be factual about, why she was wrong, and he just kind of went off on a tangent. That was irrelevant. I don't want to talk about the argument, though. I want to talk about the video and the things that I criticized about it. And I'll tell you those points, and when I'm done, I'm going to tell you why I bring this up now. So the main key points that I took away from her video, because her basic proponent was that the current divorce rates are all women's fault. It's all women's fault. Women initiate 70% of all divorces, which is true. Men are the real victims of divorce. Women don't have to suffer through divorce at all, and that things were better when women were more pure. Those are the main things I criticized. The main things I was critical about, and I'm going to break this up a little bit. Women initiate 70% of all divorces. That is actually true. However, that's a cherry-picked fact, because 70% of all spousal abuse is done by men, so a nice little correlation there. Over 60% of all spousal infidelity is done by men. Women do over 60% of all the housework around the house. Women do well over 70% of all the child care. So yeah, there's a reason women initiate the divorce. It's because they're getting a raw deal. That also leads into the fact that, men suffer, that men are the real victims of divorce. It's like, no, women got screwed over. And I do think that divorce is definitely does screw over men more than it does women. Some of that is a holdover from the days of before no-fault divorce, when women had to prove that they were being abused. So, the men in those instances deserve to be screwed over. and the courts are kind of holding on to the women are weaker and can't support themselves, and the men who, the women who are being awarded divorces need to be, taken care of, and these men are scum. So there's some holdover from that, where I don't think it's as relevant in the modern era, where women can support themselves, and divorce can end for any reason. Good and bad. Some people just grow apart. It happens. Um, Divorce can still be acrimonious in those instances, but nobody likes to see things end. Nobody wants to be at fault. So yeah, saying that it's all women's fault and that men are the real victims. Like I said, those two things kind of blended into each other in my explanations, but like that's just pure horse crap and cherry picking information. The other point, things were better when women were more pure. This made me laugh because this is so far out there. Because it made me remember when you were in, like, I don't know, middle school, you're like 10, 11, 12 years old. And I'm more talking to like my generation in this, but like we were old enough to do the math. It's like, what day did our parents get married? What day were we born? Let's see, my parents got married in February. I was born in August. March, April, May, June, July. August is only 6 months between the days my parents got married and the day I was born. Remember when we could do that math? Remember when all of our little classmates did the same math with their parents, and how many of them realized that their birth dates are less than 9 months from the dates of their parents' wedding? Remember when women were pure? I did a little research for that. Turns out that if you look at marriage and birth records for the United States for the last 200 plus years, as long as we have records, 21 on average, 21% of all births, first births, take place within 5 months of the wedding date. That's 1 in 5 women were pregnant when they got married for the last 200 years. That we can prove. That we can, statistically prove. And they did it by birth weight too. It wasn't just a birth. They did it by kids who were born within 5 months of the wedding date who were actually appeared to be at term or close to term. Kids were like 5 pounds or more at their birth, at the time of their birth. Because like, a baby that's born in 5 months who is 3.5 pounds is definitely premature. But if you're over 5 pounds at 5 months, you're not premature. You were just knocked up when you were married. So that part made me laugh, because it's not, people have been having sex outside of marriage in large numbers. This is not a recent occurrence. It's just that everyone lied about it. Your mother lied about it. Your grandmother lied about it. Your great-grandmother lied about it. The number of people who were having sex outside of marriage, before marriage, we can prove it's over 20%, just based on the birth records. And those are just the ones we can prove. It's higher than that. And like I said, my birth was within 6 months of my parents' wedding date, and I was over 6 pounds. I was definitely not premature. My parents were definitely having sex before February. And my father was 20 and my mother was 17. So my father did the right thing and he married her, but so be that as it may, I'm not trying to knock my parents. My parents were good people, so not knocking them. They had a good marriage, so they were a good couple. Not perfect, but they were a good couple. But the whole Tradwife thing, this whole pushing against divorce, this idea that things used to be better somehow before no-fault divorce, that's also why I'm bringing this up, because that's become an issue for some politicians these days. They want to end no-fault divorce. and they're against divorce. They want to make it a law that they want to bring the laws back that you can't get divorced. They want to end. They want to end it. They want to bring back the days where you had to prove your spouse was abusing you, where you couldn't get divorced under almost any circumstances, and that your husband had to approve. You couldn't just divorce your husband. Um, you know, you had to get your husband's approval to get a divorce. And they're basing it on these tradwife ideas that it's all modern feminism's fault, that people were better back then. No, people were the same back then. They just were stuck together. Women couldn't leave their husbands. In spite of the fact that maybe they did all the work, took care of the kids, they did twice as much work as their husbands did, or more. And their husbands thought they did enough because they changed oil in the car once every 3 months, and they mowed the lawn. No, I'm not a fan of divorce. I'm not. I've never been divorced. So far, neither has my wife. But I know plenty of people who have, and sometimes it's usually been a good thing, in spite of the fact, usually because one partner or the other is a piece of trash, and nobody likes to see it happen. But you shouldn't pretend that there was never a problem. I know people are. I know some people who are pretending, who are turning a blind eye to how things used to be and how bad things used to be, and pretending that those things didn't happen. The guy I had the argument on Facebook with, although he had a cohesive statement. His original statement was that divorce is bad for kids, and yeah, it is. But I didn't criticize that statement. I said the video was full of crap. That was a tangent he went off on. It's like, divorce is bad for kids. Like, yeah, but I didn't say that. I said the video's crap. But yeah, that's kind of why I bring up this whole sorry mess is, Lauren Southern, the Tradwife thing, and people trying to end no-fault divorces. Without any real understanding of what that actually means, or what this rosy-colored pretend image that they have of what the institution of marriage used to be like, and why it wasn't really any better than it is today. Yeah, divorce rates suck. But yeah, you can't push things back the way they were. Things would be so much worse if we did. Good hunting.